Munch, munch. Chomp, chomp. Gobble, gobble. Gulp.
Countless videos exist analysing Johan's actions within Monster, but a serious lack of them focus on the terrifying storybook that shaped his entire life. This video will be more of a discussion because I simply don't have the time. Basically, I feel as if Johan himself was never in control of the choices he made. He was a scripted character from the very beginning by the evils that forced him to dance. The Nameless Monster was written by Franz Bonaparte 2 years after Johan and Nina's birth, who led the eugenics experiments in which selected children would be brainwashed and influenced with the hopes of leading a new regime as superhumans not tethered to mortal constraints. Despite Johan himself not attending the lessons, he did acquire one of Bonaparte's books, reading it countless times whilst in his abandoned state at the Three Frogs, which would shape his entire life. The most fascinating part of this is that Johan lives completely under the spell of a Bluder subconsciously following the events of the Red Rose Mansion and Kinderheim 511, which I'll discuss in a bit, using the book's words and the monster's eventual name Johan for no reason apart from believing he did have a monster within himself. The story that is told in a deceptively simple way serves as a microcosm for Johan's existence, a nameless monster who splits into two beings, Nina and Johan, or if you want to get really meta, you could say that their mother was the original nameless monster, as she lost her identity when Bonaparte imprisoned her, birthing two more nameless monsters. But anyways, it splits in order to search for a name to verify their existence in a world they don't feel a part of. As Johan's monster progresses throughout society, he gives the people who fuse with him strength, purpose, respect, and happiness. But there is always an unquenchable lust deep within. The monster continues to grow, and eventually it must consume the person it originally struck a deal with. I believe this relates to Johan's need for a name, but it is more than a name, it's an identity. Instead of all this pretending and manipulating and acting, he wanted an actual identity that he could associate with. This all developed from his early childhood being stripped of his own, forcibly playing Nina to the point lines, memories, and existence merged. Johan didn't get to experience the blessing of his own personal existence being verified, and this can cause someone to spiral. This, with all the other factors, caused deep trauma within Johan to the point he distrusted all adults on a fundamental scale, hoping to only protect himself and Nina as he saw them as one in the same. Most of his actions in Monster can be attributed to protecting or helping Nina in some way, all rooting back from a fear of the true monster in Bonaparte, from shooting their foster parents along with all the other couples that knew of Nina and Johan's past. Mistrust, fear, and protection. His methods are gruesome and worthy of life in prison, but Johan was different from the Nameless Monster in one distinct way. He loved his other half. Even if the Nameless Monster emulates Johan's life, Johan at his core is a human and therefore possesses intrinsic differences compared to the monster, who serves as a metaphor for Johan's darkness rather than entire character. The ultimate difference between Johan the human and Johan the monster is that Johan possessed love. It might be the most twisted and ungodly form of love, but he cared for Nina, or his other monster, more than he cared for consuming things. He possessed humanity that the monster simply did not, and therefore saved him from his soulless chaos, destruction, and loneliness to dedicate his existence to Nina. Nina herself experienced a different form of love, however, a positive and reaffirming love, the type of love that Tenma subscribes towards, and that is considered morally bountiful. Just like her counterpart monster that went west in the book, that was content with being a nameless monster, it does not need a name to verify its existence. The monster is happy just existing, without something as desperate as a name to grasp onto. Perhaps this is due to Nina already being acknowledged by her mother during childhood, but Johan simply cannot understand the idea of being accepted as he is, and feels unseen or unloved by all of humanity due to the original act of believing he was unwanted by his mother. This unwanted feeling is reflected perfectly from Johan in chapter 98, where he interrogates Milos about why he is even alive, considering his mother discarded him. Johan is dressed as Nina here and serves as foreshadowing to Johan's twisting revelation that he believed one of the twins were unwanted by his mother. Those nihilistic beliefs that death is all there is in this universe creep in, and he manipulates the boy to search for his mother despite knowing the danger he'd innocently be entering. Johan does this to strip the boy of his naivety, reprogramming his mind to believe in the god of death and reject meaning in life. Johan cannot help but force others to feel his own pain, thereby consuming them like the monster does in the book. Relating to the equally horrifying Kinderheim 511 experiments Johan underwent before consuming even the orphanage as well, the severe brainwashing and memory-altering medication would soon stamp out any conscious knowledge of the Nameless Monster story from Johan's memory, this and the gunshot wound to his head. However, the storybook had worked so precisely to Bonaparte's design that even without knowing of its existence, Johan operated in line with the book. He had manipulated, infiltrated, and consumed many people by then. The monster inside me is getting bigger. This line is repeated throughout Johan's life, most notably in the early chapters to toy with Tenma into thinking he has split personality disorder so he'd stay obsessed with pursuing Johan. In truth, Johan possessed immense trauma that resulted in the development of his monster, his hate, indifference, and existential nature. His and the Nameless Monster's philosophy clearly incorporate nihilistic and existentialist tendencies, but ascribing him to one or a couple labels serves naught but to weaken his character overall, in my opinion. He is an amalgamation of all the evil in the world, pumped into his young mind and warping his perceptions, and whilst his final main proclamation that the only thing human beings are equal in is death is certainly depressing and pessimistic, it is also correct. Humans are not born equally, and we are run by money-hungry systems that whittle down the average person to operate for the ones who have been in control for centuries. However, Johan's realization of this does not give him any right to play with the lives of humans, which he does indeed do. The book no doubt warped Johan's perspective on how he should treat other humans, reducing their value even further when mixed with his abandonment issues. Even if his end goal was centered around giving Nina a good life, at certain stages of his manipulation that sadistic smile cannot help itself but appear. Perhaps this is the monster within him, simply unable to resist doing what is natural, as this is the only life Johan himself knew as a child. I briefly mentioned earlier, but when Johan once again plays the role of Nina, this affirmed my belief that Johan's existence and sense of identity can only exist through playing his sister, just like his childhood. His life is cyclical, from playing Nina to being shot in the head and saved by Tenma, but he cannot escape that trauma his mother left behind during his formative years. Although his manipulation of Suk is diabolical in nature, Johan appears truly human with emotions and a moral compass, which makes it ever more terrifying. He knows exactly when to encourage, when to stay silent, when to prompt, when to care, and still completely disagrees with the very foundations of it. What point is there in life if he was not loved by his mother? He can only act, but to act he must consume. He robs Nina of her identity just like the Nameless Monster does, transforming into someone else entirely whilst also believing they are one in the same. As to Johan, gender and identity are completely malleable due to him not possessing them himself. In a sense, he is free but also trapped. The monster inside of him seeps out and controls his movement, that creepy smile at himself to me hinting at Johan's supernatural omnipotence, knowing even us, the viewers, are watching him, as the reveal is supposed to be shocking. Once again, these moments offer the interpretation that Johan thinks his true self is non-existent, and he has to play or act in the same role to get people to attach themselves to him. Monster is deeply psychological in the factors of memory, truth, and love, and Johan is ultimately a tragic character in this regard, as he was gobbled up by the real monsters. Capek and Bonaparte and all the other child torturers were easily the most evil beings in the entire story, which is what Johan himself realizes in the library incident. Bonaparte himself also regrets his evil by the end of the story, with the storybook The God of Peace reflecting someone realizing the evil and destruction they have within and the terrible consequences of their actions. The visceral and jarring reaction of Johan rediscovering the book juxtaposes everything we have seen of him up to that point, with painful tears flowing from his face as that PTSD of his childhood floods back in. The choice his mother made, the experiments, the fear, the separation. It fucks a kid up. It is similar to the physical reactions Nina herself experiences and emphasizes how powerful certain triggers can be for Johan, this book that shaped his entire life. Following Johan's rediscovery of Bonaparte, his plan shifts entirely to take revenge on the man who hurt him and Nina so much, as they were meant to be the only ones alive in the world. Once again, Johan causes destruction and consumes those who he has fused with, such as Schuwald, leaving him to be eaten by the raging fire at the library after describing his origins to him. Oddly enough, he also leaves Nina in the fire to potentially die, but his confidence in his plans may have guaranteed that Tenma would save her at the risk of his own life, so I don't know. Another note about Johan pointing to his forehead, I feel as if there are multiple reasons. For one, Johan's internal struggle with the monster that grows within him, his spite for humanity and feeling of worthlessness prompts him to extinguish his own life at the hands of someone he would like to either prove wrong or corrupt, such as Tenma. He obviously fails in this regard. Or he is so unbelievably confident that he knows how the human mind works that he risks his life each time to prove to himself that he is the superior mind, as he walks with no fear and no chance of being killed, due to Johan already understanding how morally opposing Tenma is to himself. Johan already claims Tenma is somewhat of a father figure to him due to saving his life, and this could be reflected in Johan's insistence that Tenma kill him, while simultaneously wishing and hoping that Tenma does not betray him like his mother did. That theory is off the dome, so forgive me for any contrivances or outright mistakes. Overall, the anime does such an excellent job in portraying this creepy story, the musical choices, the narration, the choppy animation, that by itself ruminates with philosophical questions and an underlying evil beyond what the pages show. I just really love the art style and the messages, and that goes for My Garden, Where Am I, The God of Peace, The Man with the Big Eyes, The Man with the Big Mouth, and A Peaceful Home. Monster can cause that dread within you, even taking the song Somewhere Over the Rainbow and twisting it to reflect the warped morals of certain characters that leaves a chill with you when you end the episode. Do I really want to continue? It encapsulates not only the ethical, moral and philosophical issues of Monster in what is good or bad, where is happiness and where is despair, but also mirrors the characters such as Bonaparte, Nina, Tenma and Johan. Its intertextuality within the flippin' text itself. Just in case anyone had begun to think I'm sympathizing with Johan's actions at any point, I'm not, but the reason he became what he did was purely due to the real monsters who abused him. This video was just meant to be a discussion rather than deep analysis of the entire manga, but the storybook is probably the thing that left the creepiest impact upon me alongside Johan's early actions. If you enjoyed, be sure to like and subscribe, and if you want to see any more monster videos, let me know down below. But till the next one, peace out.